Aaron, it's great to chat with you. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
my pleasure. Thanks for your interest. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Honestly, I love Suze. It is
Yeah.
such a great film, such a great script, and it's just such a joy. What brought you in? What brought you into to Rick?
Rick, we lovingly call him Rick the Dick because he's so unkind. Um,
It's fair. It's
yeah,
fair.
right. So I had worked with Dane and Linsey, the directors, before on their first feature, and it was myself and an actor named Sarah Canning, and it was sort of a two-hander, and we had an awesome time together working, and I loved all their short films when I'd seen them in that originally. And so when this part came up, I think my agent sort of reached out and said, "Oh, this is a good little role. Like, would Aaron be good for it?" And then they got offered it. So I think it's really the relationship that we worked together, Dane and Linsey and I, that sort of made that happen. And I would be happy to be a part of anything they do because they have such a, to me, like a unique sensibility that whenever I read something that they've written or watch it or whatever, it just there's always something in it that I find interesting, and this is no different. And again, the script was great, but to me, the execution, how it all came together, is on another level because you can have a great script, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a great movie. You need that for it to be a good movie, but uh, sometimes there's movie magic, and all the parts kind of come together. And I think that's what really happened on this film. They organized all the right pieces and put them in the right order, and we have this really great little movie.
You know, you're absolutely right. Like this is one of those films that, as it started, and I hadn't seen a trailer for it. I didn't know what we were in for, and the pieces just fit.
Yeah.
The performances are great, the writing is great, and the execution is great as well. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally. And like the music is incredible. I thought like just added so much, to it. Cinematography and stuff too. I think it looks really, really, really good. Like again, all those pieces to just make it something special. Yeah, it's great.
Well, I mean, let's talk about Rick for a moment.
Yeah.
I mean, you've played villains before. You've stepped into that world. What do you think about Rick? I know they say you should never judge your character, but do you think of him that way, or do you think he genuinely cares about his son?
Um, yeah, I mean it's interesting. I mean, it's impossible to not put some judgment out there. Like like for me anyways, like probably some of the greats have an ability to really not judge the characters, but I just I can't help it, like to put a little judgment onto all the different onto the characters, and Rick for sure. I think the thing with Rick, and when you're looking at a character like this as an actor, you have to, only so much is shown on screen, and what we see on screen is that he's a bit of a dick. He doesn't come across as particularly caring or loving or anything like that. But as an actor, you think, well, why is this person like this? Something happened to them, something shitty along the way that sort of turned them into this person. So you kind of give them the benefit of having a reason for being a jerk, and that's sort of what you have to kind of do, is be like, yeah, this person is where he is and he's not a good dude, but there's probably reasons for that and probably things that weren't his fault. And so that's kind of how I look at these characters, is that you just have to have some compassion for what happened to them to make them be a bad guy. And so I think for Rick, we can talk about all sorts of backstory, but I think that that's it. I think he probably got hurt at some point, and he probably should never have been a father. That's the other thing, right? Some people, have kids, but really, if they'd been a little bit older or a little more thoughtful about it, they probably didn't want kids. They probably were not ever going to be a great father, and that's basically what I think about Rick, is that he just never should have had kids. He's not that type of person.
Yeah, he's interesting to watch on screen. Now, I do think like your character Rick's wife died. Did she die or did she leave him? I
She's in
forget.
jail.
She's in jail. That's right, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, there's
So,
that scene.
uh, yeah, because Gage goes to see her
Goes to see her.
at a certain point, and it's kind of a tiny little scene, but he asks, "Dad, you want to come see Mom with me?" And he's just like, "Nope." Like he has no interest in that. So, Uh, but again, like what happened between them? I mean, there may be heartbreak there, but he's had to cut it off with this woman. Like you can create all sorts of backstory for the characters, even with the information that you're given. Um, but it is somewhat fun too to just play the despicable aspects of somebody where they're just like, like in real life, you're never going to do that. And there's consequences to your actions and all that. But in a film like this, well, there's no real consequences. So it is kind of fun to lean into the jerk elements of things. I have to admit, maybe I like it more than I should, but I do enjoy it.
Well, honestly, like a character like this in some ways would be fun to play. I could see that. It's because it's just sort of unhinged.
Yeah, and like there is to me, I always like there's some humor, right? Even though he's being a bit of a jerk, it's like to me
Yeah.
there's a little bit of humor in there. There's almost a little flirtation. I tried to put in a little bit of that with Michaela, with Suze, to just give it like they're butting heads, but they're not really like yelling and screaming. It's more just this kind of like bizarre, like she's incredulous to that this guy could just be like asking her this to like look after her. You know what I mean? Like, so there's something kind of funny and something else a little bit going on there that I thought was interesting. That at least when I was reading the script, that's what I saw, and that's what I tried to sort of bring a little bit of that bizarreness and humor to it as well.
Yeah, because there's some great chemistry there. Pivoting a little bit here too. One of the things I love about this film, and you talk about people that hurt you, there's a real conversation here on mental health.
Absolutely. I
Um,
think there's a huge part of this movie, and the thing that I think really resonates with me thematically is this idea of like loneliness, right? These are two
yeah.
incredibly lonely people, lonely characters because of different things. Obviously, they're coming from different places, but I think they both are so alone, feel
Mm.
so alone, and that is can be devastating. And I think that we see what that does to these people, or how how difficult it is. But then the beauty of these two this odd pairing sort of being what the other person needs is basically a great friend. And that's just the kind of beauty of it to me, is this just idea of loneliness, and then these people who never would have thought that they'd be the one that the other person sort of needed to kind of support them. And here you go, this very strange, odd couple.
Well, and this that sort of taps into one of the things that I was thinking about with this film, and I feel like I've been seeing this in a number of films recently. I know we're talking about Suze, but I was wondering the idea of healing together in your mind,
Mm.
and how that, if you think that applies here in this film, and what that looks like in real life.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that is exactly what's happening. These and I mean, I think for a lot of people, I mean, you do have to do your own work, right, to get
Yeah.
past these things, to move past, and I think that that's always going to be the case. But to have somebody in your orbit who is supportive and there for you, and maybe somewhat in the same circumstances, I do think that that is a relatable thing. I think that that is helpful, and that does happen for people. You kind of gravitate to people who are in, sometimes similar scenarios, because we feel like they will understand us in the scenarios that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's funny because this is one of those films where the pairing is odd, but the healing is real,
Yeah.
in some ways, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah. Hey, listen, again, I'd read the script and I was watching the movie, having a good time, but by the end, I was crying. I was
Yeah.
so, moved by these two characters. And that's an incredible thing too, when you've read a script and you've been a part of something, the story, you know what it is, but to then be moved by it when you watch it, that doesn't always happen. And so yeah, again, that's why I just think that this film really, really works, and I think people will relate to it because I just think that it really works. It really gets to what it's trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the young man who plays Gage, forgive me, his name escapes me.
Charlie, Charlie
Charlie.
Gillespie. Yeah.
Yes, he's incredible in this film.
Oh yeah.
He's
Oh
so
yeah.
good.
I sent him after I saw the movie. Again, I only worked on the movie for a few days, so I didn't get
Right.
to know anybody all that, like on set and stuff. But I wasn't there for the whole shoot, so you don't get to spend all this time with people. So I didn't get to know him really well, but he was a super nice guy, and uh, really funny. but I sent him a message just being like, dude, like you were so good and nobody else could have done what you did. Like to me, it was like such a unique, one of a kind. Like I'm sure you could have found another great actor to play the role, but no, I don't think anybody would have been able to pull off what he did.
Hmm.
Just so unique and so yeah, there's just a lot of amazing qualities. Like there's an innocence there, obviously, to him that at first is kind of like almost annoying and naive, but then
Yeah.
but as you know what I mean, like to a certain point, but then as you start to get to know this kid more, and you know, more is unveiled about who he really is and how he looks at things, and that sort of annoyance at like this guy who's just so like uh chipper and whatever, you know, you really start to fall for this kid and really feel for him. And that's an amazing transformation too, to be able to pull that off from annoying to like really rooting for this kid. So yeah, he's incredible. Awesome actor. And yeah, I sent him a message as soon as I watched it, just being like, dude, like so good.
And honestly, just being candid, like there's a moment in the film, like when it starts, again, I hadn't seen a trailer, so when I just
Mhm.
popped it in, I'm watching it, and I thought it was going to be all about Suze and her daughter.
Yeah.
And there's that scene at the beginning where he's standing there at the airport and he's got no shirt on.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he's the annoying boyfriend trope. And then
Yeah.
there's a point about 40 minutes in the film, I'm like, I love this guy. Like,
Yeah.
when did that happen? But this guy's the base.
Well,
It
it's
is
yeah, I mean his
incredible.
performance and again the writing, like it's so great to like I mean to have like such an arc like that that is, you know, over a film is really cool, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's, you know, testament to Dane and Linsey for writing such a great role and for him to be able to pull it off.
I know we're starting to run out of time, Aaron, but I'm wondering, what do you hope people take away from Suze?
Well, I just hope a lot of people see it because I think
Yeah.
that it's a really good film. Um, so to me, I just hope that a lot of people see it, and I hope people like it. I think people will like it, you know, like so I think I just hope that it reaches a good audience because I think Dane and Linsey really deserve it. They've been working really hard and doing great work consistently, and I think this could be a really awesome calling card for them. So I just hope that lots of people see it is really what I want, and I think that if people see it, they will enjoy it.
I agree with you, honestly. Like if I were to compare it to something, it would be sort of the energy of Juno,
Yeah,
which I adore. It's a
yeah,
wonderful film, and this has that sort of spirit and fire to it that I think is really great.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Aaron, honestly, such a joy to chat with you. I really appreciate the time. Thank you
My
so
pleasure, Steve.
much.
Thank you so much for your interest. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime.
My pleasure.